Hey guys, Mr. Ridgway here. So we are going to be walking you through here our first kind of lesson for this new unit they're going to be starting. So this unit is all about imperialism and colonization, and we'll talk about what those mean here in a second. Give you some actual good definitions. But before that, I want to say before we get into this unit that again, welcome back. Hopefully you had a good break. The thing that you will need to understand in particular about this unit, and ones that we are, if, for example, like, I mean, obviously with Cultural Hearths, we, dove into some controversial stuff and very painful things, in some cases, because, you're getting used to, different cultural practices and things like that. This unit is much different in that it's going to show you some pretty painful and very difficult moments of human history. And so just be ready for that. Be ready to kind of deal with, be able to, kind of hold lots of very contradictory and confusing and painful ideas in your head at the same time. So just a little, heads up of what's to come. So I'd like you to go ahead and do this warm-up that's here, this intro to imperialism. That's going to tell me a little bit about what you might remember about Columbus, who is actually going to be the guy that we're going to focus on here first with kind of getting to this unit. So what are we trying to achieve here? Well, this lesson I'm trying to kind of give you a little bit of a case study of what imperialism is and how it can, what it can look like and what some of the effects of it can be. Because this lesson is going to look at, in particular, two countries, India and China. But I'm doing that because we're going to spend the vast majority of this unit in Africa and looking at colonialism and post-colonialism there. And with that, India and China present an opportunity for you to kind of, without having to dive into the history of Africa, to take some of the themes from India and China and see what Europeans do there, and then hopefully kind of take some of those themes and models and motifs, and then kind of see how Europeans will do the exact same thing in Africa as they have, and we'll see this here in a second, in the Americas, and then also in India and China. So, let's get to it. First of all, your warm-up there, depending on how you do on it, we'll do a little bit of different reflection on Columbus. Columbus is a really good example for us to look at the motivations for early European imperialism. And if you don't know what imperialism is just the act of making empires. Okay, that's all imperialism is. It's going and conquering other places. Colonization is a little bit different. It's a little bit more nuanced. And generally, that's the idea that you're setting up colonies, other places for a home country's peoples to live. And so what we're going to do is we're going to watch this video right here. Go ahead and please do so on your own. That shows you the motivations that Christopher Columbus had. And also it's going to bust some myths of his. Now, go ahead, watch it. Pause this video if you need to. Okay, do that thing. That's right here. It's really good. And let's debrief about Columbus. Okay, on the next slide here. Okay, let's not get YouTube. Let's not do that. Okay. So with Columbus in particular, you should have seen that economics was a really big motivation for him, even though he was an idiot. And that is because he's attempting to find this trade route to Asia that he thinks that exists because he's bad at math. Now, even though that's the case, there's some other stuff in there too, like he wanted to spread Christianity. He's also doing it for personal glory, and so we actually kind of have a name for this. However, before we get to too specific into some of the motivations, I'd like you to look at two of the biggest effects of the earliest European imperialism that mostly are a result of Columbus. Really the only two things that he should be known for. And the first thing right here is something called the Columbian Exchange. And I asked you this on your warm-up, and I will just go ahead and make a copy of this here so you can actually see what you're supposed to do. The Columbian Exchange is this kind of dialogue that starts because of the two hemispheres, because Columbus, again, is a doofus, and tries to navigate west when he misjudged the size of the Earth. And what happens then is that we get all these products that start exchanging between the hemispheres. So I've put these icons up here, and I'm going to challenge you in class. Can you correctly sort which of these items originated in which hemisphere? And if you don't know what they are, I'll just go through them quickly. We have here pig, horse, pineapple, peanut, turkey, germs, generally speaking, although that kind of went both ways, but mostly it goes one direction. Potatoes. We have here bananas. I know my fruits. Then behind my face, I have corn and grapes. So go ahead and sort these onto the proper side. You literally just drag them, okay, onto where you think each product originated from, okay? Once you've done that, you can go to the next slide. You can check your answer. So go ahead and pause it right now. So here's what this should look like, okay? So if I were doing this, like as a teacher, germs, okay, stuff like smallpox, typhus, okay, horses would go here, pigs would also go here, okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the Western hemisphere first. Let's see, peanuts would go over here, okay, and I know this. Potatoes would go here, corn would go here, grapes would go here. Turkey, I believe, although now I'm kind of doubting myself. Pineapple and bananas. That's how this should look. Now I'm going to double check myself to make sure I didn't get it wrong, because I probably did. Now I got, okay, I was scared about turkey, so I wasn't sure if I was right about that one. I think I got everything right. Okay, good. I'm good at things. Oh no, I got bananas wrong. No! Oh no, I got bananas wrong. I should have known. Okay, so bananas, and then is it peanut? That is... It's got to be peanut. I think I've got peanut wrong. Yeah, okay. Man, because I know that goober is the African word for an African word for peanut. And so I was like, oh, maybe it originated there. Never mind. Anyways, Goofy Goober, SpongeBob reference there if you didn't get that one. So that's what it should look like, okay? And this is just kind of like testing you. Oh, do you know where these things come from? And we call this the Columbian Exchange. If you'd like to try this again and see if you've actually learned it, you're more than welcome to download your own icons into there, or perhaps try the whole sorting thing again. So, anyways, the other thing that we have to talk about is the other effect of Columbus, and that is the largest cultural and ethnic genocide that is ever going to occur in world history ever. Okay. So I've put together a little picto chart here for you. The population of the Americas before Columbus arrives is estimated between 112 million to 8 million, and that is a large gap. Okay, so most estimates put it anywhere from, I'd say, 10, 20 million to about 60 million. 112 is really high, but even if you just take the average, like 60 million, 9 out of 10 Aboriginal indigenous peoples of the Americas are going to die, with the vast majority of them coming from disease and then war as a follow-up. But you need to understand, like, when Columbus does this, not only is he personally responsible for some of these things, which he does, it's going to be the death of traditional languages, lands and hunting grounds, family, traditions, beliefs, or, cultural history. You go on and on and on. And it's just, again, the effects of the Columbian Exchange on native populations is especially devastating. So really, we should, know those things. So I'd like you to talk with somebody, next to you, okay? And if you're not, you will have to do this on your own. Just talk with a partner and come up with these. So I'd like you to summarize Columbus's motivations in 3 words, but they all have to start with the same letter. See if you can remember which 3 words I'm thinking of. And then right here, summarize 2 effects of the Columbian Exchange in 2 words. So, okay, when you've got your answers, I'd like you to write them down in today's notes. If you need to copy that, they're right there. All right. By the way, pause the video if you haven't done that yet. But the three words I'm thinking of is God, gold, and glory for that one, and then maybe like genocide and products are the two effects the two words I might have. But anyways, let's get on to looking at our case studies of later European imperialism. And first, then, we need to talk about Britain and India. Okay, so we kind of have to talk about two things, which is the British East India Company, and then later, after Britain's kind of fed up with indirect control, they go direct control, which is the Raj. And we'll talk about later when we get into imperialism what indirect versus direct control is. But, okay, the thing that you need to know about this unit is that we are going to be doing a lot of reading, okay? Now, the reading that we're going to be doing is difficult, not only in like heavy content, like it's hard to read some of these things, but also like it's just intellectually hard. And so with that, I'm going to ask that you download a new app on your computer that's going to help you. It's going to be something called Insert Learning. It's awesome. It's so good. The thing with that, though, is that you have to have Chrome. So if you need the link to go download Chrome, it is right here. Again, I've used Chrome now for, 7-8 years, and I love it. It's wonderful. They keep it up to date, and it's sleek and fast, and it's got good add-ons. And speaking of those add-ons, let's meet the one we're going to use. It is called Insert Learning. So if you click right here, okay, that is going to give you the link to it. Okay, again, you'll need Chrome. Once you download it, okay, and you sign in with Microsoft, you need to click on the Classes tab. So let me show you actually what that looks like. Right up here, okay, you click Classes after you've signed in with Microsoft, and then you're going to punch in these letter codes right here. Okay, so block 1, here's yours. Block 3, here's yours. Block 4, here's yours. Okay, with that, once you've done that, okay, you're going to click this reading button right here. And this will only open for you properly if you have actually signed in with that Microsoft account that you just registered. I'm going to go ahead and sign into my teaching account here so you can actually see what it looks like. So here's the reading, okay? And you can see it's called 19th Century Colonialism in India, and it looks just like a normal reading. But then here's what Insert Learning does. Is it gives me a chance to help you scaffold your reading, not only in person, which we'll talk about some strategies and reading strategies that we can, approach for difficult content that's nonfiction, but then also it helps you out if you're online and you're not in class. And I get all these answers, which is so cool. So if you see here, okay, you can even have, I'll even read this section to you if you'd like me to. You just scan the little QR code. And then I'd like you to answer these, either sometimes they're summarizing questions, sometimes there's videos for you to watch, or notes that I've made, or annotations. They're things that are in there for me to help you scaffold your understanding, to help support your understanding. So right here, after you read, you identify the main idea of the paragraph that was right here, okay? And then this one, what's a key word in the above text in this paragraph? And then right here, we have a discussion question, and all the classes will be typing into that. Now, what kind of values do you think that Europeans taught through the, quote, white man's burden? Okay, so we get this is a really, really helpful app for scaffolding some of these discussions. It's awesome. It's wonderful. Answers automatically submit once you put them in there. You literally just, type away, and we get to utilize this in class. Now, what I'd like you to do, okay, once you're done with the reading, is go on, okay, and we are going to then get into our mini lesson on China. Now, we will take time in class to kind of debrief what we read there about India, but I'll go ahead and do it for you here online, since, obviously if you're completing this YouTube video, you won't have the chance to kind of debrief with me in that way. So I'm again going to go back to the reading here just for a moment, and here's things that I would encourage you to pay attention to. Number 1 is this philosophy of mercantilism. Click on this link and understand this has a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution. The reason why Britain, a country literally an entire half the world away, colonizes India, imperializes, and also colonizes India, is because of a lot of things to do with the Industrial Revolution. And with that, there's this philosophy behind it called mercantilism, okay? If you're having difficulty understanding mercantilism, it's all about money and making profit. And if you would like to see an anecdote of that to help you understand it, there's a link there about SpongeBob SquarePants actually being it's the story of mercantilism. It's a wonderful metaphor. There's other things, though, that are reasons for them to go. Again, we're exploring the reasons why Britain colonizes and imperializes India. The second thing is nationalism. India makes Britain filthy rich, and with that richness, because mercantilism is all about power, money is power, according to that philosophy. And not only can the British utilize it as a market for their goods, but also they can draw upon Indian troops in global conflicts, which they do in all the world wars they're involved in, 1 and 2. Haven't seen the third one yet, but there you go. And they just get stupid powerful off of India. The nickname for India for the British is it's their crown jewel, because it makes them so much stinking money. And then the last thing down here is that imperialism was also a cultural thing. And I've given you a little taste of that here with something called the white man's burden. Now we will read a very, very famous poem next class that is about this and some of the motivations, but the general premise of this idea is that Europeans are there to uplift these poor, savage people that they are colonizing, and they're going to teach them how to become civilized out of their inherent barbarism. And if this sounds racist, it absolutely is. It has very deep roots in white Anglo-Saxon. Well, I shouldn't say even Anglo, because it's not just Anglo. It's white European supremacy, and the roots of this run very, very deep. So. And again, this is everything from cultural values to religion to politics to, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So that would be like my things to look out for there. Okay, let's get to China, because that'll go better, I'm sure. Again, you're trying to get a taste here of how and why Britain is colonizing, so we can use this as kind of a leverage point for understanding Africa. Okay, so you got an essential question here. Because this is going to be something that China is going to deal with, is that if the world were confronted by, today, just imagine the world is confronted by a discovery of aliens, and we'll assume they're intelligent, would it be better for us to isolate ourselves, like don't talk to them, or open up to them? And you're going to see that China has a very particular, when they start encountering the West, and again, I'm including like Europeans, and I guess also by extension the United States in there, they're going to have a very particular decision that they choose to make, and some, unfortunately, that are made for them. So, the background you need to know with Britain at this point is we're in, we're out of the Dark Ages. Britain is, it's got kings and queens and all those things at this point. Again, background knowledge if you don't know. And like a lot of European countries at the time, Britain wanted to trade with China, and they want the things that they can't have in Europe. If you can imagine, just kind of thinking for a minute, like if you've, again, this is going way back, but like if you were one of those serfs stuck on a medieval manor and you never traveled more than like 4 or 5 miles your entire life, and life totally sucked, and that's all you knew, eventually you get really, really sick of those things, and you want stuff that makes your life not suck, like spices that make your food taste nice. But then again, we take that and we kind of push it along a good ways, and we have Europeans wanting stuff like tea and silk and Chinese porcelain, and Britain in particular really loved those things. The British, for example, were crazy about tea. They still are, and again, these fancy kind of exotic goods, if you will, exotic butters, for those who know what that is. The thing is that with that trade, with Britain wanting those things, the British are more than interested in trading with China in exchange for the things that Britain has. The problem is that China is having none of it. They're like, we have everything we need. We don't need anything you guys are giving us. And so the Chinese don't want any British goods. The only thing that China at this time, again, we're in like the 14, 15, 1600s, if you're kind of picturing in your brain here, okay? The only thing that really, it's like 1600s. The only thing that Britain is, or that the Chinese are willing to give Britain, well, I should say, the Chinese are willing to accept from Britain is silver. Okay, they don't want anything that Britain's offering them. They got the good stuff. Okay. And again, this shouldn't seem like totally surprising. Like the Chinese invent the paper press and gunpowder and the flushable toilet, like all this stuff, and they're like, you have nothing to offer us. So the problem for Britain, though, is that doing all this trade, it causes Britain to lose money because they're having to pay for silver for all these things. And that's a loss of profit for them. And if we go back to that early philosophy that was mentioned earlier about mercantilism, it's all about making profit. And Britain is just generating these huge trade deficits with China because they want those fancy things, but the only thing that the Chinese will accept as payment is silver. So what Britain decides to do to get their silver back is they decide to use a corporation called the British East India Company. Now, it is, if you like corporation, like, wait, they're using a business? Yes, that's part of mercantilism, is that the crown, meaning the British kings and queens, will use these businesses that really the crown owns to do their dirty work. And the British East India Company comes up with this solution. So here's their strategy. They're going to addict China to opium. And this opium is grown in India, and they decide to use this as the strategy and they will just flood the Chinese markets with opium and get their silver back as payment. If you don't know, by the way, opium is related in the family tree of modern day heroin and other pain pills, opiates, right? And if you don't know, it's made from that flower up there. That is the poppy. But what happens? Well, Britain starts to dump tons and tons of opium into China through their coastal ports. Now, Chinese officials, they try to stop it, and the current dynasty at the time, without going into too much detail, they start confiscating opium shipments. They dump into the ocean. Britain, of course, is furious at this because what are they doing? Trying to interrupt their drug trade. If this is kind of sounding like the British Empire or gigantic drug dealers, they are. They're the greatest drug dealers in all of world history ever. And Britain gets super mad at this, and they start actually cracking down on the Chinese in a series of wars called the Opium Wars. Now, after lots of these, because again, it's the British Navy, for crying out loud, that's enforcing this, right? Even though it's the British East India Company doing the trading, China loses, and they sign a treaty in there that says, number one, Hong Kong is given to the British until 1997, which is a silly, huge chunk of time, multiple hundreds of years, that the British are allowed the city of Hong Kong, which is why Hong Kong is a little bit different than the rest of China today. And then the second thing is that China is forced to stay open for business with Britain. But it gets worse. Again, answer this question in your notes. Because then we get the Boxer Rebellion. Because a few decades later, again, this is getting into the 1900s at this point, a group in China known as the Boxers, that's their nickname. Their actual name is the Righteous and Harmonious Fists, and they get nicknamed the Boxers in the West. They are rebelling against all this Western, basically, pressure and trade that's built up in China over these years. And they have the Boxers have this word that we call nationalism, which means pride in one's own country. And what they do is they start attacking anything that is, think of them kind of like a terrorist group isn't the right word. It's like a pro-nationalist, pro-China, anti-European influence group, and they start attacking anything that has links to the West, Christianity. For example, they go after Christian missionaries who are in China. Even Chinese converts to Christianity, they go after. Trade, churches, any killing foreigners that were there. And if you look, 19,000 troops from the West show up and crush the rebellion. Britain, Russia, Germany, Japan, Austria, Italy, and even the United States gets in there. And what we get out of this is something called the open door policy, which, whether China likes it or not, establishes free trade in China for every country in the world, meaning everybody can trade with China, whether China likes it or they don't. And by the way, this is the start of when the US and China really start to have an economic relationship between the two. It's very early, but it is the start. Come up with an 8-word response of China, 8-word summary of China's response to Western pressure. And you can kind of see out of this lesson, how the British go about doing imperialism in India and China, and some of the themes, cultural, economic, etc., that come out of that. So complete the exit ticket that's here at the bottom of your notes. Again, you've had this or linked early on, but I'll go ahead and show what the exit ticket is. It's just a little, 2 kind of box graphic organizer down here. So the motives for imperialism that I've seen in today's lesson, and I'd like you to come up with 4 examples, 2 economic examples, and 2 cultural ones. Okay? So once you've done that, we are done with this particular lesson, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.